Hey everyone, this is Pete, and welcome back to Atari A to Z, a series of short playthroughs of Atari 8-bit games, some of which I grew up with and some of which are new to me. Today is one of the latter. Today we're looking at a game called Icky Squishy. Now this is a game that I didn't know anything about beforehand, but as I looked into it, we ended up with an awful lot of information. So I've got a really messy page of notes on this one, so you'll have to bear with me while I try and decipher my chicken scratch handwriting. But anyway, Icky Squishy was the second game developed by an independent creator known as Jeffrey McArthur. I thought there wasn't much info on this game, as I said before, until I stumbled across a Let's Play by Jeffrey McArthur from 2015. And you can still find that on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description if I remember to do that, which I sometimes don't, so I apologise for that. Sadly, McArthur actually passed away in December of 2017, but his videos are still up if you want to explore them. He's an enthusiast of tabletop gaming as well as computer games and video games, so a lot of his videos are very insightful and well worth exploring, particularly his explorations of the two games he made, Kamikaze and Icky Squishy. So, the story behind Icky Squishy is that McArthur got out of military service, went back to school and bought an Atari 800 and decided to learn programming on it using the Atari assembler, and then later an off-brand assembler that he didn't remember the details of. So his games were written in either Atari assembler or this other assembler that he tracked down. His first game, as I say, was called Kamikaze, but he personally believed that Icky Squishy was a much better game. And as I say, he was very much a tabletop gaming enthusiast, to such a degree that the map in Icky Squishy was based on a TSR tabletop game called Those Awful Green Things from Outer Space. The game was written in 6502 assembler, as I say, with no developer kit, but he did have access to pirated copies of Atari's internal documentation about the hardware. So he managed to sort of figure out a bunch of things about moving things around the screen and designing games that made good use of the Atari hardware. And in particular, Icky Squishy is quite noteworthy for having a large number of objects on screen through creative use of the Atari's multicolour text mode. So most of the things you see on the screen are not in fact sprites, they are fonts, making use of multicolour fonts and redefining the characters out on the fly to simulate animation. There's actually up to 64 enemies on screen at once, which was kind of a big deal at the time this was released. Now the game was intended for commercial release, but never actually sold any copies. And the reason for this is that McArthur was supposed to go into business with his friends, but he had, shall we say, some trouble with that. One of the things he said as part of his reflections on the game was never go into business with your friends, only go into business with people who know what they are doing. So yeah, this was intended for commercial release, but basically didn't make it for one reason or another. Now, interestingly, despite the fact that it didn't get an official release, a pirated copy still managed to find its way onto the internet. And many years after Icky Squishy's original release, someone got in touch with Jeffrey McArthur to report a bug in the game. And the bug was that if you play the game for 24 hours straight and allow the score counter to wrap around, then the game starts behaving a little bit strangely. Now, obviously, this is not something that Jeffrey McArthur would have come across during testing, but he did find it kind of interesting that someone, one, had taken the effort to do that, and two, had felt the need to report it to him. He did actually offer to fix it, but no, he ended up not doing that. So yeah, lots of interesting stories surrounding this game. I mean, as a game, it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's sort of a maze-based shoot-'em-up. But this is just one of many examples of fascinating stories from the Atari community that could easily get lost. So I'm happy to do my part in telling them and honouring the memory of creators such as Jeffrey McArthur. So rest in peace, Jeffrey McArthur. Let's go play Icky Squishy. Okay, here we are with Icky Squishy. Icky Squishy, by Jeffrey McArthur. Copyright Stargazer Enterprises, which is the name of the company that Jeffrey McArthur tried to set up with his friends in order to sell and market this game. But as I said in the intro, this actually, I think it may have made it to market from the sound of things, but it didn't actually sell any copies. But some copies managed to find their way out into the wild somehow. via piracy. In the Atari 8-bit era, things had a habit of leaking out in various ways. I've talked on this series before about the computer club that my father and brother used to go to on a regular basis. And they would come back laden with discs full of pirated software, many of which were actually unreleased prototypes of games. So we got things like the last Starfighter game, which became Star Raiders 2. And we've actually previously seen that on this series. We've got the prototype for what will become Rescue on Fractalus, which is behind Jaggy Lines. We never had this, to my knowledge. But yeah, I imagine something similar happened with this. It sort of leaked out via user groups and computer clubs and that sort of thing. Anyway, let us play Icky Squishy. Oh dear, that's not a good start, is it? Spawning directly on top of an enemy and immediately dying. And yeah, every time you die, you get this unskippable cutscene here that in his Let's Play, Jeffrey McArthur apologised for, but was also quite pleased with at the time, so we'll let him have that, I guess. And a bit of, what's it called? Taps? Playing in the background there. Perhaps inspired by MacArthur's old military service. Okay, so here we are. This is how this game works. You wander around this map, which, as I say, was inspired by a TSR game, and you have to destroy all of the aliens. You start as those little pixel-sized eggs, gradually grow into full-size aliens, and occasionally there are some larger ones that will come and chase you down as well, so you really need to be ready for them. And if you take too long on a level, you'll find that the aliens start to mutate to different colours as well. So there's actually a surprising amount going on in this game. It's very simple mechanically. It says literally run around the maze and shoot the things. And collecting those white crystals there gives you more ammunition. But yeah, the way the enemies are sort of spawning and mutating and that sort of thing while you're playing is the highlight of this game, really. And their behaviour, the way they eat through those walls and that damage is persistent while you're still on the same level. So yeah, we just gotta... I'm not 100% sure on what the actual victory conditions for a level are. I think it's just get it to a point where there are no enemies left anywhere on the map. But that means you do need to keep wandering around and killing things because they do keep spawning. There we are. Congratulations, you killed them all! Well, maybe not. And then you proceed to the next level, which is a little bit faster. You hear the music is actually sped up as well. That music there consisting of a little snippet from The Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's not the entire piece of music. And MacArthur himself admitted that it got a little bit annoying after a while, but yeah, that is what the basis of that music is. And yeah, we just continue this way throughout the game. Now, there's a few interesting little things in this game. You'll notice in the top left corner it says semi. And that's to do with your gun's firing mode. So at the moment we're on semi-automatic, which means that every time you tap the fire button, you shoot a bullet. But if you hit the select button, you can actually hit it onto automatic mode, which means you can hold down the fire button and continuously shoot. That's a nice little touch that I don't remember seeing in sort of early shoot-em-ups like this. Some had rapid fire options, sure, and we had joysticks that had auto fire and rapid fire options, but I don't remember seeing it incorporated directly into a game like that. That's something I tend to actually associate with quite recent first and third person shooters with realistic weaponry in them. Again, that may well be an example of MacArthur using his background in military service to add just a touch of realism based on his own experiences. Congratulations, you killed them all. Well, maybe not. And yeah, it just continues this way. You'll also notice in the top right, there are 3 blobs and a little man. The little man is how many lives we've got, obviously. But the 3 blobs are grenades. If you press the Option key on the computer, and you will chuck a grenade, which basically acts as a smart bomb. It clears out everything on the screen. So if you do get into a situation where you are approaching that 64 characters on the screen limit that I talked about in the intro, a grenade can sometimes be the best option. And you get more grenades every few thousand points. I think it might be every 2,500 points, maybe? Not sure. I haven't been watching. I know you start with 1 and we've got 3 now, so... Okay, you see they're starting to spawn a bit quicker now. They're moving more quickly. Music is faster than it was. A few interesting little quirks that go along with the Atari scrolling and stuff as well. You'll notice if you move up and down after you've fired, your shots will effectively move up and down as well. So that tended to be referred to as guided missiles in games of the period. In some cases, it was an unintentional side effect of having scrolling screens and moving sprites and that sort of thing. But in games like this, you can actually end up using it in quite a tactical way. Yeah, this is starting to get a bit busy now. So let's switch to automatic mode. This might help us clear this all out a bit more quickly. There we go. And if you haven't figured it out, I don't think I'd mentioned it before, the white bar at the top of the screen shows how much ammunition you've got left. Oh, got an extra life. There we go. Doing well. Hopefully we're not going to go for 24 hours and discover the bug with the scoring system. That was a funny story. Yeah, so once again, the characters are moving more quickly. And we're just going to have to be a bit more careful. I believe the ammo crystals actually respawn every so often as well, so I don't think it's actually possible to run out of ammunition completely. Oh god, they are getting quick now. Oh, there's hundreds of them. Yeah, and as I said in the intro, MacArthur was quite pleased with himself by the fact that all of the enemy characters are created using text characters. So yeah, this game is primarily running in one of the Atari's text modes. There is... Oh, I am out of ammo. Uh-oh. Maybe... There we go, there's a grenade. Do need to find some ammo, though, because there's lots of them. Oh, you seem to get a random amount of ammo from each of those crystals as well. That's actually genuinely quite unsettling. Oh, there we are. They've mutated to a different colour now as well. And I'm out of bullets again. I'm going to switch back to semi because auto is chewing through my ammo at a ridiculous rate. As helpful as it is. Alright, oh god. Alright, let's grenade them. And again. Whew. That was intense. Yeah, I mean, I'd not heard of this game before for obvious reasons, but I was just looking for a game that began with I, and I was just searching through the HomeSoft collection like I usually do, and I was curious about this, and I fired it up for a quick go. I thought, oh, okay, this is quite interesting. But I couldn't find a lot of information about it online. There wasn't very much on places like Atari Mania and so on. But I just happened to search for the author's name and Icky Squishy, and I stumbled across his YouTube channel. Which, before he sadly passed away in the end of 2017, he was keeping fairly regularly updated with his thoughts on things like tabletop role-playing. He was big on Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of thing. But he'd also done these Let's Plays of his two video games that he'd made in the past. And they weren't sort of deeply technical rundowns of how he did things or anything. But they were interesting insights into how an independent creator would have operated in the 1980s in what was a brand new creative sector at the time. And I just found it fascinating and kind of inspiring and really cool that sort of the memory of all his work had been preserved, despite the fact that he's no longer with us. So his stuff is still there on YouTube for you to enjoy and watch. And that just kind of inspired me to want to share his story a bit, I guess. To share what he had worked on and the way he had approached it. Oh god. That's the big one I mentioned before. That occasionally randomly spawns. It does approach you very rapidly like that, but you can actually shoot it. You can actually get rid of it. But you have to be super quick on the mark to do that. But yeah, as I say, there are sort of first-hand accounts from a fair few developers from this era of home computing and game development and that sort of thing around the place. But I'd not come across something quite as in-depth and personal as what McArthur had provided on his YouTube channel. And I just found it really interesting and, like I say, something I wanted to share with you all. So, plus the game's pretty fun as well. As I say, when you start, it might not look like much, but it rapidly accelerates into something surprisingly intense and genuinely quite unsettling after a few levels. Uh-oh. Grenade time. There we go. This is where you really appreciate controllers with more than one button. Because you don't have to reach over to the computer console to actually trigger something like a grenade or a special function like that. I'm going to run out of ammo again. Time to run away! Yeah, I suppose one nice thing you can do with emulators is you could actually assign the select option start keys to buttons on the controller. I actually haven't done that. But playing this game is sort of making me wish that I had. Never mind, we can say that I'm going for the more authentic experience. As back in the day, I would have had to reach over to the console and press the buttons on there. Not like you young whippersnappers today with your 12 button controllers or however many there are on modern systems. And your touchpads and your light bars and other such nonsense. We're not getting much ammo from each pickup, are we? And I'm out of grenades now as well. This is going to end poorly. Oh, go away! I got him. Oh, there's so many of them. It's the Dynasty Warriors of the 1980s. One warrior worth 1,000. Oh, one warrior worth 64, I guess. Yeah, they are relentless. That's... I say, just the scale of the swarm that comes after you and how relentless they are and how they just chew through the walls gradually like that. That's like some genuinely quite good horror there. Uh-oh, dead end. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, sneak! No! I do have about 1 million lives. It'll come up at some point. Let's enjoy a sip of coffee during yet another death scene. So, I guess the school rolling over thing must have been something along the lines of just the school reaching a value that the Atari computer couldn't handle anymore. I forget offhand what the maximum number the Atari 8-bit was capable of addressing was. But I can only assume that's what caused that peculiar situation. But yeah, apparently the game didn't crash completely or anything like that. It just started behaving very strangely. He didn't go into specifics of exactly what happened, but yeah, I always find stories like that quite interesting because obviously programmers absolutely could not have anticipated something like that happening when they designed their games. Actually seem to stop getting extra grenades after a certain point as well. Or maybe I just haven't reached the next school boundary for them as well. Maybe it sort of increases using a particular scale or something along those lines. I actually find the level design of this quite interesting, because, as I've said, it is inspired by a map from a tabletop game. But the other interesting thing is its use of diagonal lines, which might not sound like a big deal, but when you consider other sort of top-down exploration and shooting games that were around at the period, like Dandy and Gauntlet and all that kind of thing, most of them were tile-based, which would mean the whole thing was based around square blocks, which meant you'd have lots of straight vertical and horizontal edges. And actually seeing diagonal lines was relatively rare. In a sense, that's sort of understandable, because drawing a diagonal line at this low resolution, you'll see it results in that sort of jagged step. Oh, you get an extra life when you kill the big dude, maybe. Or maybe I just reached the next school boundary. Oh, out with ammo again. Truly, I have entered the world of survival horror. Yeah, what was I saying? Diagonal lines. Yeah, diagonal lines, fairly unusual to see in a game of this type at the time. Just because that sort of jagged effect was kind of unavoidable, and some designers didn't like incorporating that. And so sort of even as early as the early to mid-80s, graphic designers and developers were concerned with things like anti-aliasing. The whole reason that Rescue on Fractalus exists is because it was originally supposed to be an example of anti-aliasing on the Atari 8-bit. Now that didn't happen, obviously, and so its original name behind Jaggy Lines became a kind of thinly veiled reference to that. Because your enemies in that game are the Jaggies. As we all know, the only way to defeat Jaggies is with anti-aliasing. Oh no! Which is something that early PlayStation 2 developers in particular struggled with. Oh, we've been going for 21 minutes. No 24 hours yet, but let's see how far we can get. I suspect we're probably not going to get much further than this, because the ammo seems to be very, very scarce at this point. I'm not getting any more grenades. And that's making the whole situation pretty tricky. And they just seem to be spawning much more quickly than I can actually deal with them. I don't think your progress carries over when you lose a life as well. You basically have to start the level again. I believe, anyway. Oh, there we are. Another extra life. This is a tricky thing with balancing a game like this, because you can kind of get to a point where, yes, it is challenging because of the sheer number of enemies, but also the amount of points you're scoring for dealing with that sheer number of enemies means that you end up with a huge stock of extra lives, and you're recovering lives almost as quickly as you're losing them. So that must have very much been a design challenge for people making arcade-style games at the time. And indeed, we can certainly see it here. Uh-oh. I do like how the character sprite has such a tiny head. Oh dear. He's like a really early example of the sort of muscle-bound marine character with tiny head, massively broad shoulders. He's all muscle and no brain. And now he's dead. There's a lesson for us all there. If you can fill the screen with gravestones. That's interesting. The mutation you're dealing with sort of seems to cycle round. So last time we started with the grey ones, and then the red ones appeared, and this time around we're starting with the red ones. I don't believe the different colour ones behave any differently. It's just sort of providing a bit of extra variety, I guess. Oh god, I think I've trapped myself here, haven't I? Time for the last stand! Objective! Survive! Oh... Yeah, this is definitely getting harder now. Maybe I'll switch to automatic for the next run. I like how the aliens that you're blasting away are kind enough to give you a proper burial. That's very kind of them, isn't it? Right, automatic, bring it on. We've got blue ones coming this time. Uh-oh.
Get out of here. Get out of my face. Extra life! Uh-oh. Out of ammo. Run! Give me some bullets, please. More bullets. More bullets. More bullets. More bullets. Oh my god. Out of bullets again, but I think every one of those bullets that I fired actually hit something. So none of them were wasted. Oh my god. You want a spooky game for Halloween? Forget Phasmophobia or whatever the fashionable one is right now and just play Icky Squishy on Atari 8-bit. Because when those things are chasing you, it's quite terrifying. A 1 pixel of bullet, that's not helpful, is it? Pew! Gotta stay 1 step ahead of them. There's no more ammo. There's no ammo anywhere. Oh. That was always going to happen at some point, wasn't it? Now, the question is, are we going to keep scoring extra lives? And keep ourselves in this situation of perpetual stalemate? Or are we eventually going to lose? I wonder. Well, there's a whole row of gravestones. Alright, bring it on. I got you this time. I've absolutely got them this time. They're mutating already. One thing that would be quite helpful is some sort of indication of how well you're doing in the level, so sort of an indication of roughly how many enemies you've got left to kill would be maybe handy. Or like a scanner or something like that. But at the same time, that sort of unknown element adds to the kind of horror aspect almost. If you don't know... Oh, I've done it! I've done it! Yeah, that does add to the horror aspect though, that sense of unknown. Even faster. Yeah, speedy little bugger now, aren't you? Not starting a level with a lot of ammo. Take out the ones that haven't hatched yet. That seems to work quite well. Uh-oh. What happens now? Do we get a new row of gravestones? Oh, I got a new grenade. When did that happen? So evidently, yeah, there is a big jump between the score at which you get... Oh, maybe you get a new grenade with each new level. Maybe that's it. Yeah, we do get a new row of gravestones. So perhaps you can fill the screen with them. Let's make that our goal, shall we? Concentrating now. Oh, you're quick. Go away. Get out of here. Feeling good. Feeling good. Yes! Check me out. I'm the best at Icky Squishy. Yeah, it is each new level you get a new grenade, not at school boundaries. I stand corrected. And that also explains why we weren't getting any new grenades for such a long time. Because we weren't finishing levels. Speed is definitely ramping up now. And again, getting a little bit low on ammo. Some of these things seem to be taking 2 shots to kill now as well. I don't know if that's deliberate or if that's just dodgy collision detection. Another extra life. And out of ammo. Alright, come here, my pretties. Boom! Some ammo would be nice. Some ammo would be lovely, in fact. There's some. Oh, and it's actually not a terrible amount either. Oh, God. They're coming for me! Run away. Alright, come here. And run away again. Oh no, no. Truly, that thing is the evil Otto of Icky Squishy. I guess he's there just to make it so that you don't end up running around doing nothing for ages. Not that there's a lot of point doing that, because if you're not shooting things, you're not scoring points. But I guess it is sort of incentive to try and stay on top of the ammo situation. Oh, help. Run! Oh! This is getting silly now. But I feel after 35 minutes I'm probably obliged to see this through to the end now. What have I done? What have I done? And why? I ask myself this question many times daily. Right, onward! Kill the grey things. Yeah, some of these do seem to be taking more than one hit. I like the collision is being registered because the bullet's disappearing. So that feels deliberate, but I don't know. Hard to tell. We've got mutations coming in. Let's cut a path through them. Low on ammo again. That was a decent amount of destruction, though. Oh god, but they're still coming. There's so many of them. So many of them. I wonder if there's some sort of system to how they spawn. Like, is how the eggs spawn dependent on how many enemies of a certain status are in the level, or is it just random? Or is it just this level will have X amount of enemies in total? And up to 64 can appear on screen at once, and they will just keep spawning until we reach that maximum number of enemies. I don't know. That's a level of detail that McArthur didn't go into in his video, but at least partly because it seemed like there were a couple of things about the game that he couldn't remember. Like, he couldn't remember which keys had been assigned to the grenades and changing your firing mode, for example. Which I thought was quite funny. I mean, to be fair, select and option are fairly intuitive choices, but he may have been playing things up a bit for the camera. Just a sea of red. Oh no, we're now purples. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to run that has ammunition anyway. Just a little bit. Not enough to really be super helpful. Because they're still spawning. No. Are you hiding bullets? No, you're not hiding bullets. There are no bullets. And I might have backed myself into a corner. Quick, scoot round them. Yeah, we're... That was always going to happen. I think we'll give it one more life, because, I mean, it's been 40 minutes already, and I can sense this potentially going on for a very long time otherwise, even longer than it already has done. So, yeah, we'll call this next one the last life, and then we'll cut it from there. But yeah, this is actually a very enjoyable game. It's got a certain sort of almost hypnotic quality to it. You know, when you get a game that's just... It might not be terribly complicated, but it's quite enjoyable and satisfying to play, and it just makes you want to keep engaging with it, and that's what I'm getting from this. Like, it's not like a super amazing game or anything like that, but just the act of shooting your way through these swarms of enemies is very satisfying and enjoyable. And of course, you're making numbers get bigger, and gamers love making numbers get bigger. Anyway, I said that was going to be our last life, and that is indeed our last life. So, 194,760 points after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lives. 13 lives, beg your pardon, including the one that is currently being buried. But yeah, that is Icky Squishy. A lot of fun. A surprising amount of fun. And so I guess we just have to say thank you very much to Jeffrey McArthur for providing us with this, and for a bit of the story behind its creation and release as well. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.